Okay, so I'm going to continue with the story. You're not totally freaked out by now. I am. But it's just a story. No reality involved. Okay, so the Foo Fighters, okay, like I said, they come to Earth, and I'm only speaking about the stories about these two specific ones, but I'm sure there were Foo Fighters all over the place, land, and all over the world. There's no spaceship. There is no other beings landing because, like I said, they're just like energy, sound, light beings. They're beings. I mean, every bit more than what we are, obviously, because they've learned how to do away with the body. They don't need it. But obviously, we do here on planet Earth. So uh, these, this is what they've done, and they're here. So the Marilyn and Martin Luther King Foos, they never get together like they're supposed to, right? The magnets, they're like magnetized to meet each other, and that's the grand plan of taking over the earth, the alien invasion. But it doesn't work because Marilyn's killed. So Martin Luther King is kind of just left hanging there, right? But see, foods, since they are energy sources, they're entities that don't require a body. Marilyn just went and found another body, okay? And Martin Luther King was left, right? Well, so he continues on his quest to change the world and see things in a better way and try to help in any way possible. And he goes off to Jamaica, I think it was Jamaica where he wrote that book, and tries to gather his thoughts because something is not right. And he knows this, that something is not right. Okay, so there's been some break in the equilibrium, and so he goes off to an island to get his thoughts together. A concept many of us are familiar with. When we get stressed out, we, you know, go off to ourselves to collect ourselves in a way. So he does that, and he figures out that Marilyn was killed because he had a date with her. Okay, not a date like a romantic date, but there was a date that was supposed to happen where her and her friends were supposed to meet him and his friends, and they were going to do the Freedom Riders thing. Okay, they were supposed to get together and talk about this, and it never happened because she was killed. Okay, so he starts to put it together. Like, wait a second, this happened here, and this would have actually been a good idea because, yeah, Marilyn is who she is, but she was also married to Arthur Miller, and there was that whole House of Un-American Activities thing, and that's what I'm doing. And I mean, it's not a stretch. He starts to put it together like, wait a second, this was a good idea. I see what's going on now. They probably killed her. And then what do you know? Bammo. He's killed. He's assassinated. So now what's going to happen? We have these two Foo Fighters, okay? So he also gets a new body, okay? In his situation, though, in my story, which is just a story, okay, he goes into Michael Jackson's body, okay? And Michael Jackson is a boy. He's not a baby, okay? He's a boy. Um, I think he was about, I don't know, you'd have to look at the dates to make the story work. Uh, but he's a boy, and it's right about the time where you can see his musical talents are developing and also changing into dance. You notice that of the Jacksons, well, Janet can dance really well also, but Michael kind of stands out on this point. Michael is different from the other Jacksons. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I think I'm just stating the obvious here. So he starts doing this dance thing, and he's getting better and better and better at it. And he starts to put things together in his own mind. He starts to see how things are going because he's a Foo Fighter. And he's like, wait a second here. There's a lot of synchronicities in my life. I mean, a lot of them. My name's Michael, and Martin Luther King Jr.'s name was Michael, and for some reason, a lot of coincidences are happening. Something's going on here. So he starts to do a little research, okay? And he figures out that Marilyn was fully aware that she was a Foo Fighter, because in her films, artistically disguised, it's not even really a disguise because that's how art works. She talks about, um, and the entire cast. It's not like it's a secret. The entire cast, the entire production, the writing, the script, everything. Okay, talks about um, Roswell and the aliens coming down. And if you put the videos together, you can see this. So he figures it out that Marilyn had this thought, and he's starting to wonder about himself because he looks at these hands and he's like, wait a second, this looks a lot like those videos, and I kind of look like that, and that doesn't that doesn't prove anything, but he starts to get very suspicious. So he starts to reference Marilyn. He starts to become obsessed with her, like absolutely and totally obsessed with her. Every piece of work he does has Marilyn reference all over. He dresses like Marilyn. He does his hair like Marilyn. He puts on clothes that look like Marilyn. He has his brothers dress up like baseball players. There's just like he's like completely, totally obsessed and in love with Marilyn. Okay, which is a little freaky because she's dead, right? And he's never actually met her. But he can't help it. He's so enamored of her that he's practically dedicated his creative life to finding her, And he thinks that if he just keeps throwing it out there, maybe she will wake up. She will see it and she will recognize him and wake up, to the fact that in her past life she was Marilyn. Okay. So he keeps doing this and throwing it out there and throwing it out there and throwing it out there. And no Marilyn, no Marilyn. He tries getting Madonna to dress like Marilyn and be by his side. He tries dressing like her. He writes a song for her. Billie Jean, that's not fooling anybody. That's Norma Jean. And all the time he puts in references about video and TV. And if you listen real closely, it is just all over. Once you see it, you can't not see it. Okay. So he's doing this trying to find Marilyn, and no Marilyn. Well, the world has become a bigger place, and who knows where she could be. If she's reincarnated, where she could be in Brazil. Well, he tries that too. He comes up with this bright idea that because she wore those pointy brassieres, maybe Brazil. There's a connection there with Brazil, because there's so many weird connections with words and faces and pictures and people, and they all connect in different ways. They're just markers that interchange, right? It could be a picture could refer to a word, could refer to an image, could refer to a body. You never know how they're going to connect. So he goes to Brazil and he does his thing there, and he always does, if you noticed in his videos, he always does this thing. Well, that's the Christ in Brazil, that big huge statue in Rio. That's what that is. So he has this, and he's deeply religious, If you ever listen to him talk or listen to anything about him, he's a deeply religious person, much like myself in that manner. So he's trying to find her, and he doesn't find her. He dies not finding her. It's very sad because he spent his entire creative life doing this. Well, when he dies, he becomes again a foo, because that's how these aliens work. He's back in his non-bodied spiritual self, looking for a body, But this time, he's going to find Marilyn. That's all there is to it. He's not limited by a body. He's not going to go through that circus again. He wants nothing doing. He's going to find Marilyn one way or another. It's going to happen, So he looks and looks and looks and looks and looks and looks, and he comes up with this plan that he's going to find her and inhabit her. He's just going to join, just say, what the fuck, I'm doing it. And so he does. And he finds her in the strangest place ever. He looks and looks and looks, and he finds her. So now he has to let her know who she is so that she will let him in. Because she's not going to just let any she doesn't even know she's Marilyn, right? So she's not going to let just anyone in. So he's got to find a way to let her know so that she will open the spiritual door, so to speak. Well, Oops. How did that happen? Okay. Um, this is where a lot of strange things happen. You know, he realizes that maybe there's a technological element here. Something has got to happen. So he finds her and he tells her, guess what? You're Marilyn. I'm Michael Jackson. We're both Foo Fighters, and we have to be together. I've been looking my whole life for you. I finally found you. I'm not letting you go. What do you think? Can I join? Can I borrow your not borrow, I guess can we carpool? Can we, and she says, absolutely. And they do. And then they've got to find the other Foo Fighters. They've got to find the other ones. But Marilyn has a problem because she's no longer Marilyn now. She's somebody else. And she's got a kid. And she becomes aware that, well, maybe there's more to this whole thing than meets the eye. Okay, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to see if I can find another video to kind of transition into the story.